This is the Lord of the Flies, pages 100 through 137 reference summary. And here we go. Second part of this before the test. The twins retell their encounter with the beast. And oh boy, is it a big, scary story, as you can imagine. And Jack is immediately excited for a real hunt and asks for volunteers. Now it's finally time, and this is what I think of Jack as well. You know, he's like he's quite a formidable little rascal, but he's a rascal. He's a little rascal, and he's, I mean, who knows what he's about to go get himself into. Ralph dismisses the thought as impossible. There is no way they're going to be completely outmatched. I mean, he's thinking, no, this is like boys with sticks against some just there whatever it is, the way that it's been described, it's just too big. They can barely handle the pigs. They did not handle the boar. The boar got away. And if this thing is bigger and stronger than that, no, no. Piggy just wants to ignore it.
Jeffrey, will you listen to me? Listen, I am not listening to you. I'm ignoring you. I am not listening to Jeffrey, but he's still talking. I am not listening to you.
And that's the thing, is that, you know, he just wants to ignore it. I'm not listening, it's not there. Ralph is moved to hunt it, to hunt for it, find it, not hunt it specifically, because he doesn't know if they can hurt it, but to find it, and mainly to get out and relight that fire. That's always Ralph's number one, is keep that fire lit, and it's been out. So Ralph fears leaving the little ones, though. That's the big problem with the plan. They're all going to be left back with Piggy, and how's that supposed to work? Now Jack doesn't care about the little ones at all. I mean, he doesn't. He's like, whatever. I mean, you know, sucks to the little ones. So they decide to leave Piggy behind to watch the little ones, and, you know, he's kind of like plays babysitter, but doesn't really grumble too much about it. And Jack protests leaving Piggy until as babysitter. Hey, why are you always protecting Piggy? How come he doesn't ever have to do anything? Until Ralph points out that he now has one eye thanks to Jack, you know? I mean, what, you created this problem, now you're going to complain about it? Don't say anything, Jack, you created it. So they hike to the castle, and again, a reminder, we are looking at rainforest here, so it's dense. There could be a thing anywhere in it. So you're moving slow, you're concentrating, you're focusing, and it's going to take way too long to get any place. And this is a path. If there's no path, it's just plow through that and wonder what you're going to step in, step on, if it's going to be sharp, if it's going to be thorny, what, you know. So, you know, it sucks up their day. It takes a lot of the time and a lot of energy. Ralph goes in first once they get to the castle. It's that isthmus. It's the end of the island. And Ralph goes in first because he's chief, and Jack follows to show that he's brave. And they find really nothing but a cool defensive position. You know, if like you were going to make a fort for a snowball war or a dirt clod fight or something, with nearly no resources, but it's kind of described as having like a couple of rocks leaning against one another, or where it's kind of like, it's kind of a shelter, kind of a situation. It's kind of interesting. And there's some very, very, very small water source there, but not, I mean, not much. They spend way too much time and energy exploring this place, and so they send Simon ahead to Piggy. Because Simon is, I'm fine going through the forest. I know it's not a beast. He's has no problem going along, but he's not scared at all because he knows in his mind he's good. There's no beast. They seek the main trail in the middle of the forest, and they end up fighting a boar. Oh, and they end up losing to that boar. It gets away. Ralph wounds it, and they end up bonding over the hunt. They find the trail. Everyone wants to go back to camp though because they're tired and it's nearly dark. And Jack wants to hold Ralph to his original plan to go and light the fire. And it's here that we realize, yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, he's a nice guy, but when it comes to like we're hunting, we're friends now, but he's a trickster. He's always trying to find the way to get where he wants. He always wants to go. So this is a picture of Loki, and I am reminded when I did a search for it, Loki, the trickster of war games. Many manipulation and deception. Many perish by his tricks and distorted vision. That's what he likes to do, is confuse and distort and twist and make people see the wrong thing. The trickster. And that seems to be, Jack's like totally working this backwards because this is a bad idea to begin with. Ralph should get credit for changing his mind because it's now the conditions have changed, so now it's not a good idea. There's no reason to try it anyway because with just 3 kids, no way, because they can't take a pig with 3 kids, let alone whatever this is, and it's just, and everybody's tired and everybody wants to go back, and it just seems like no, it's not a good idea now. But Jack's like, no, I'm gonna push you to do it. You said you'd do it before. Now I'm gonna push you to do it, and if you don't, I'm gonna call you a coward. Okay, so Jack's gonna get to his way. Jack knows it's a really bad idea now. I mean, he's like, this is I'm about to create a mess. I know it, but whatever. What's probably gonna happen is I'm gonna goad him into it, and he's not gonna wanna. And I'm gonna go up there, and I'm gonna see what it is. So he wants Ralph to admit it for the sake of discrediting him, making him look wishy-washy. Ralph is trapped into going up the mountain near dark with a stick in his hand. And Jack goads him along, and Ralph protests at the stupidity of doing it. And near the top, he stops, and Jack blunders forward because Ralph said, this is stupid, this is enough. And Jack said, what, are you scared? And he says, no, but if you're so excited to go ahead, And why are you scared? And, kind of pushes Jack to go first. And then Jack goes and sees it, and he's terrified, and he runs at what he sees. He runs back to Ralph. Now, Jack wanted this. And Jack was so sure of himself, and Ralph was trying to back out. And then Jack pushes and pushes and pushes. Now, if he'd have gone forward and there was nothing there, he could say Ralph's a coward, Ralph's a chicken. I went first because he wouldn't go, and I found nothing. He was afraid of nothing. But if right now he goes and he finds something, which he does, and runs from it like such a scaredy cat, oh my gosh. Won't matter though. When it's time to retell this story, it'll be Jack went first because Ralph didn't want to go. See how that works? You've seen the whole scene. You get to see it, we get to read it. But we know how people are, and we know that when Jack retells this story, it's all about Ralph didn't want to go all the way up. I had to push him, then I had to go first, then I saw it first. Kind of a thing. And it's just, he's going to end up discrediting him, and you just know it. And Ralph won't really have a whole lot to say because it is true. But Ralph made the right decisions. So what I'm saying is leaders, we can watch leaders make the right decisions and still call him a coward. Still manipulate, and they lose points when they should be gaining points for doing the right thing. What is that about people? That we value the tricks of leadership and the political ways of debating people and making people look bad and making people look dumb and discrediting one's enemy. We value that more than actual good leadership decisions? Is that possible? It looks like it. Anyway, so he sees it, he's terrified, he runs back to Ralph. All 3 return and see it, and then they take off running.
Writing's not that easy,
Oh
but
my
Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
My goodness. They take off running down the hill. I thought this one was interesting. This one's really kind of surprising. You know, you start and all of a sudden you see something you're not ready for, you know. Whoa. Pick up speed. Quickly. Oh, it's right there. You know, bears have got really good endurance. They can keep going for a long time. Looks like he's gonna be alright. He's losing it. Uh-oh. Yeah, okay. So I thought that would be a good one for like running down the hill full speed, you know, terrified. And that's where that particular one that particular one ends, and then the next thing we see is Ralph says, you know, we're down at the bottom of the hill and we're talking about it. And he's just going, we are completely ruined. It guards the fire. It's too big to attack. I mean, what are you really gonna do against that thing? You know? And he insults Jack when Jack says, well, what about my hunters? Well, what about my hunters? He says, they're just boys with sticks. And, you know, it's not as much of an insult until you realize that, oh, that's right. Little boys are, they always play with sticks. So that's like, you know, that's kind of, he's like, conjuring up the images of, you know, little boys with sticks. Not just the vicious boys with sticks like they are. They're able to kill pigs. They're able to trap them with the spear circle and then growling and menacing hold it together until Jack can subdue it. But you know, but really, you know, he's like, you're just boys with sticks. What are you gonna do if it's like a bear or something? Jack calls a meeting. It can't be a bear, but I'm just saying, just in case. Jack calls a meeting. Jack calls a vote, and he's like, you know, that's it. I want to vote right now. He votes to get rid of Ralph as chief, and nobody, not one person, raises their hand. They all recognize that Ralph is safety, Ralph is responsibility, Ralph is trying to get them off of this island, and when they screw up, Ralph even tells them when they screw up. He's doing everything right. He should be the chief. We're calling him chief. And nobody backs off of their vote. Wow. So for all of your rhetoric and your work there, Jack, you know, they aren't buying it. You're not a leader. They know with the way that you behave and your agenda and your mind and stuff, you're not a leader. It's not healthy for you to be the leader. Okay? So Jack runs off ashamed. But, you know what? Pretty quickly, the other boys join him. Because popularity, in this popularity contest, it has nothing to do with leadership. And just because he makes the better leader and he can tell us that we ought to do X and not do Y, doesn't mean we want to hang out with him all day. He's not that fun. So here you go. Here's a good quote for it. Meaningful life is not a popularity contest. Do what in your heart you believe to be the right thing, and you may or may not get immediate approval from the world, but do it anyway. Somebody needed to teach these kids don't worry about the popularity contest. Worry about doing right. Jack is completely sucked up in the popularity contest. When he loses it, he has to run off completely ashamed. But, you know, they're gonna the other boys are gonna join him because he hunts, and that makes him more popular, and so that he's more fun to hang out with, and they don't want to sit around and do chores. So they go. They he talks about how they're gonna hunt, and they're gonna feel better on that side of the island, and make his camp over there, and this and that. And they go pig hunting. They end up chasing this sow across all over the place, and they kill it really clumsily, and they do a terrible job at it. They wound it. They chase it across, halfway across the island. Then they finish it off. So it's going to be all adrenaline shot. And when they finish it off in the attack, they jam a stick in its rear end, and they afterwards think this is a great thing and it's funny and everything. But anybody who knows anything about processing knows that the intestines, you want to keep those as intact as possible. You do not want them ripped or torn in any way. The wrong part of the bacteria inside those tubes, inside of our intestines, it stays in check. It stays in the correct amount because we're alive, and we've got antibodies that keep that number in the correct amount in our intestines. And if we die, the bacteria that's in our intestines go crazy, and a large amount of the decomposition that happens inside of somebody is from the bacteria that's already inside them. Once they die and they no longer keep that bacteria in check, it literally digests them from the inside out. That's a normal body process. You can't let that bacteria get all over the meat on the inside of the cavity of the pig. This is a terrible waste of meat. This is terrible, poor butchering. They've gone after a sow. This is one of the breeders. I mean, if they know it's a sow, it's either had piglets before or still potentially has piglets. They don't go after the boar. The boar got away from them, and there's not that many of them. They could go after a young sow maybe, but they're just going after whichever one looks like it's easiest, biggest, laziest, doesn't know we're coming. And there's no thought to whether or not going after this animal is the best one to go after, because other ones might make better choices to keep the population alive. That's all I'm saying. So they kind of blow it in every way they possibly can, but they are getting more efficient. They're getting better at getting meat. But like I said, the whole scene with stick the stick in the pig's rear end is, they think it's great as little kids, but again, the adult looks at that scene and goes, "Wow, man." And we read earlier in the book that the meat, that after they're cooking it, they pull it off the fire and it's half cooked and they're gulping it down. And now you're gonna do poor butchering. Oh my gosh, the sickness that you can catch doing this kind of stuff. Anybody who's spent any time, older person fishing or hunting knows about this kind of stuff. And if like just cleaning fish, not to get that stuff all over the inside, all over your meat. And then they're gonna half cook it. Oh no. Bad, bad, bad. Danger, danger. Way to get sick in the middle of the tropics with no hospital around. That's a bad, bad idea. Ralph decides that he's going to cut the head off the sow and has a stick sharpened at both ends, and he jams it into the ground and into the head also. So jams the one point into the ground, the other point the head goes on top of, and leaves it as an offering to the beast. And that's where we end this section. Obviously, with him saying, if you kill any more, then you cut the head off and you stick it on a stick as an offering to the beast. And this is an offering to the beast, so it will leave us alone. And he's gone from saying there is no beast. Sometimes I hear things, or I sense things in the forest that kind of make me get a little bit scared, so I wonder if there is a beast. He's gone back and forth, wishy-washy. I'll go kill your beast. We can't kill this beast. And now we're going to do offerings to the beast. I mean, his credibility and stuff like that on these issues is just ridiculous. He just changes his story constantly, but he never seems to get caught. He never. There's nobody. I guess it's because there's nobody there calling him out, pointing out whenever he does these kinds of things. But he's getting away with it. Um, he's really good at forcing what he wants. He wants to become the leader of this group of people. He's not so much worried about the people, and he doesn't have good motives. He just wants it. He's just plain straight out ambitious, and that's all there is to it. Now, it looks like he may not be chief, whatever that is, but he's whatever he is now, which is the new chief of his group, and they will hunt, and this is what they're going to do. So that's the end of our section. Be ready for a test soon.